Sounds good.
Thank you. That's a great question. Actually, we should introduce ourselves as well, maybe. Yeah. All right. I'll start since I'm already talking. Right. So it's also my first time at the FOSSASIA Summit, actually. Imagine that. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Welcome. Right. Now, so I'm Alexander. So I am a maintainer of the one of the maintainers of the PS Lab project, which is a project under the scope of FOSSASIA. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy writing maintainable software. That's my thing. Trying to make the PS Lab a little bit more maintainable, because right now we have some technical debt, let's say. Yeah, I mean, okay, that's my. Let's see. Did I answer your question? Okay.
Okay. So I'm Norbert Breining. I don't remember. I think I was on a FOSSASIA. No, I met Mario and Hong Fook, I think, on a Debian conference 8 years ago or something, and then I somehow slipped into this group. I cared for SUSE AI for long years. That was a project which we were working on to create a privacy-aware smart assistant, including a smart speaker with voice detection on device based on Raspberry Pi. That somehow phased out slowly because less and less developers are interested. And over the last years, I somehow cared for the Eventier system that runs, for example, the website of the summit here, but also several others. Yeah.
Right. All right. So I'll try to answer your question a bit on what I know. So far, as I can't remember. So FOSSASIA was started as a conference to be run around Asia. I think the first one that I joined could have been 2000. Wait, is it 2013? Something like that. It was the first one that was run in Singapore. I know the previous one was in Cambodia. It was running, I was doing my PhD there. It was running right in front, and then I got to learn about it, and I basically just signed up as a volunteer just to help with whatever they had there. Mario and Hong Fu were running the event, and it got, like, the idea was to move it around Asia, but it got stuck in Singapore since then for quite a long time because it's very hard to move around. Like, it's not sustainable to move every year because first you need to deal with a lot of overhead every time you move, right? Like, you need to find allocation, you need to find volunteers, you need to find and then you need to figure out every single thing about the conference, right? Whereas when you stay in one place, the first year you figure out all these things, and the next year you only improve on it, right? So I think that's the main reason that got stuck in Singapore. And lately it moved out of Singapore because of different reasons, but I think it's mainly cost in Singapore increased. So not so much the event itself, but actually the accommodation for people coming. It was quite high. And then last year was Hanoi, and this year it's Bangkok. And then I've been, from my side, I started as a volunteer, and then I jumped into other projects, been helping with different things, and lately it's been mostly Eventier also as a developer.
Yeah, my name is Padmal, and I'm mainly working on PS Lab hardware. And the first time I joined FOSSASIA was in 2017. I was in Singapore at that time, and then I got into GSoC project, and I got to meet Mario and Hong personally, and then I was able to attend the summit there at the Singapore Lifelong, and since then I've been active in the project up until now, developing the hardware and making improvements. And here. That's my story. And maybe Mario has many things to add.
Well, shortly, yeah. So basically, I think we more or less started off as the idea was like we are a group of friends, yeah. We like we're all interested in free and open source technologies. So we said like, hey, let's bring everyone together who we know, and have an event and have a kind of festival once a year, and that was 2009. And yeah, many more people than we ever expected turned up, and like more interest developed. So the first event was already 1,400 people. Yeah, it was in Hanoi back then. Yeah, and also like we actually had some connections with the GNOME community. So then we had the GNOME Asia Summit there, and like it became much bigger than intended. And the idea originally was like we're all interested in FOSS technologies. So we are in Asia. We know FOSSDEM, we know open source conferences in the US and so on. So how should we call it? Yeah, FOSS and Asia, like so FOSS and Asia, because actually Padma is the only like Asian here on right now, original. But okay, Marco is based in Singapore. You got on board later. Also have a lot of connections to Asia, Malaysia, and everywhere. Norbert speaks Japanese. Lives in Japan, and yeah, and I was based at that time when we started it in Vietnam. So that's a bit the background. And actually, I was just like thinking and seeing us, and thinking like we don't really represent FOSSASIA because like for example, at least 50% I would say are female in our community, but it seems like they're working, yeah. They're working, they're busy now. Like for example, we have like 2 community members sitting right here taking care of the camera. You're also taking care of the camera, so and of the stream. So it's kind of funny that we are here now and leaning back and ask us anything. But of course we can say a lot of things. But I think like we're not the best full representation. Yeah, we can, of course. Yeah, we can represent our projects and our own background and so on, but like ask us anything. That's just like a session we wanted to come up with to also answer questions. But you can of course go to every community member here, which you see like at the registration and so on. And the cool thing that I saw this year was that we achieve more and more to really like make a pan-Asian event. Yeah. So for example, we have volunteers flying in from Indonesia, and yeah, like helping out things. We have like volunteers here from Myanmar. A lot of people from Myanmar actually joined, right? Of course from Thailand and from Vietnam and so on. So I think that is quite unique. Of course, there are more and more tech events in Asia, across Asia. Like for example, we love Coast Cup in Taiwan and so on. But like I think we can be quite proud to not even only Asian, right? So across. This, yeah, and there's Hong Fook, and Hong Fook is just standing there and waving, and of course, that's what I said, right? Like it's not a good Hong Fook. It's not a good representation here, right? Like all female and like diverse people. Yeah, exactly. You should come here, and yeah, much better. Yeah. So the question is, how did we get started? I shared a bit from my point of view. What are your thoughts? Like how did you join FOSSASIA?
Yes, so how did I join FOSSASIA? So the story I've been telling so many times already when I was in university, and I went to Singapore for my degree with a Windows machine. So that was the copy Windows version that I have from Vietnam, and the laptop did not work back then, and I went to that NUS Linux user group back then. Somebody helped me to install Ubuntu. That was the first time I got to learn about Linux, and since then I never used anything else except the Linux operating system, because I realized that it's really not only easy to use, you can download something very quickly and then never a pop-up window that say, okay, you need to update or scan virus or something. But of course, it's only a small thing. The most important aspect for me was the people in the community. They are very nice. For example, they can sit there with you for several hours and teach you how to do some Python or how to run like a command line in terminal. And like people, even though some people are very knowledgeable, so they spend several years studying computer science, they are an expert in the field, but when they talk to the beginners, people who are new to the community, they're very patient, and they share their knowledge, and you don't feel that there is any gap between you and the other contributor. So that is, the human aspect of open source and the community really brought me into this space, and I got a lot of opportunities from open source. I can learn a lot, and a lot of job opportunities also come on my way. And therefore, in 2009, we decided that more people should know about this, and we started FOSSASIA, originally from Vietnam, basically a platform where people can get together and learn from each other. And now, after 16 years, we are still here. And not only getting people together, we have you here today. We have many projects coming out of the FOSSASIA Summit. We are a mentor organization this year for GSoC. The application will open in a few days. Did you talk about this already? Yeah, so we have the maintainers of different projects here, Pocket Science Lab, Event Yay, someone with the LED badge, so we are looking for more contributors. So if you want to join us, there are many different ways. Help with the videos, reporter box. So all of the things we are working on GitHub. So I think we have another 6 minutes. People, if anyone has any question. Yeah, so we have 6 minutes. Yeah.
That question. Okay.
Looking at the tech as a space right now, I think I see some changes. Maybe the feeling is shared. Open source is still there, but it feels like it's a lot harder to do something in it or be part of it if you're not part of a big company. I'm talking about the GenAI stuff. I'm curious how you guys look at it as an organizer of such a conference. Like community, as a person in the space, I've always been one of the very important things of doing tech. And with that it comes building stuff, and I feel like that's changing a little bit, and I'm wondering how you guys look at that. That's a feeling. I would be very interested in comments from the organizers.
So I answer. So basically, so open source is a general term. I think it depends on the region where you are. So for example, here in Thailand, it's more about people organized around a particular technology. So open source people don't say, okay, I do open source, I come here. So they would say, oh, I'm into Python, I do data science or machine learning. And these people would engage in different groups to work on Python. Indonesia, people really into DevOps. So a lot of people organize around OpenStack or Kubernetes. So the idea is about, okay, get the open source people together, contribute. A lot of people actually use open source for their daily work. So companies running Kubernetes, but they don't go out and say, okay, I'm an open source contributor, but they also use OpenStack, and they also report back into OpenStack. The same with Python. There's so many open source libraries. I think that it has changed a lot in the past, for 15 years now. Before, people go out and talk about open source as an idea, but now everyone uses it. They don't say that, okay, I'm an open source contributor, but I work with Flutter. I also make a PR to Flutter from time to time. So for now, look at this conference this year. We see a lot of developers coming also from Thailand. Also a lot of international, but they all live here.
So I'm having difficulties to see a mega trend, because in the past, for example, you organize conference like FOSSASIA or FOSSDEM, we had a lot of different tracks, but nowadays we have Python conferences, Rust conferences, so there's more, and for me it's very difficult to say open source is developing like that. I mean, we see new generations, and they don't have the feeling anymore the feeling that many people had in the 90s, let's say, where you had like basically I feel like some big companies were constantly harassing you. Yeah, you want a development tool, you had to pay like licenses, you had to do this, you had to do a lot of steps. So it was like challenging to do things. And now the young generation, they grew up with all these development tools. They could basically do whatever they wanted and develop it. So things have changed in this way, but it's difficult for me to say a mega trend. I think you can always contribute, but maybe some projects, they are more mature now. So in order to really get something merged, you need a lot of knowledge, high level. But you can still do many small projects, and I think we set some examples here, right? Where we had the LED badge magic, and we went, for example, to the Chaos Congress in Germany, and then suddenly people got so excited, and the developers said, wow, like this famous developer is doing something on my project, like just a small thing. So yeah, it depends, yeah? So I think there's still opportunities to do things, but like, I don't know, maybe in a few years we will look back and see some trends that happened today, and I think it's not just us waiting and seeing what's happening. Maybe we can influence things, and that's what we are trying to do also with the FOSSASIA Summit, to actually hopefully bring things in a good direction and in a sharing direction.
I can maybe give my perspective on this question as well. So speaking only for myself, my contributions to open source and free software are basically entirely done as an individual, not as an employee of a company. At my day job, we use open source software, of course, because everyone does. It's impossible to work in tech these days without using open source. But contributing back, that's still not something that my company is very good at, though that is slowly changing, and I think that is a very good thing. So I agree with you that companies and corporations are becoming a bigger presence in the world of free and open source software. But I don't think that's a bad thing, and I don't think that prevents individuals from also contributing. It's not like a room that gets full, but rather, as companies. As long as those companies are let's say good citizens of open source and engage with the community, then I think it's a very good thing. And that's not always the case, of course, but very often I find that it is. So from my perspective, I agree that there is such a trend actually, but I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I have similar comments to this. It is true that a lot of people work, practically everyone in IT works with open source. Companies allowing to contribute back is far lower level. But I think events like here, the summit, can help to push this within the companies. For example, my previous company is a big Japanese client-to-client market space, Mercury. So when I was there, I pushed them to become sponsors here. Then several people come here to present their work. But that ships out this information. We as Mercury, as the company, are depending on open source projects to the higher levels of management, to the C-levels, right? They don't see, the C-level often don't understand anything, CEO, CTO, they don't understand what is going on at the actual software level. And so that is good to show them, okay, there is a lot, we contribute, we receive a lot support by using open source projects, and we contribute back. And by, for example, that Pushing Mercury becomes here a sponsor and sends talks and contributes, it also creates awareness within the company that this open source space provides a lot of services, but also enjoys receiving contribution, feedback, whatever, in many ways. And I think that is one of the great things here at the summit that a lot of people just slowly shift into and create more awareness in companies that, for example, I mean, it would be perfect that every developer in a company would be allowed like to work 20% of his time on open source projects. If all companies would invest this would be super nice. But I mean, that is something I would like to see in the future, right? That we push people, like that companies like, okay, we profit so much, so give the engineers a certain time they can work on other stuff like open source around what the company works, for example. And in Mercury, we have installed this, so people contribute actively to Kubernetes, for example, because we use it heavily. So it's not my ex-company, but they use it very heavily. So there is, as both of them change, there is a change of perception that open source is not only a tool we can grab and use. I think there's a slow change in perception that contributing back has a positive effect on the company, and that is something I'm very happy to see. And yeah.
Do you have any questions from the audience?
Yeah, so I think that's all the time that we have. Thank you very much for your participation, and I hope that to see some of you sending your application for the GSoC coming up. So you don't have to be a student. So any software engineer or developers can apply. Yeah, so thank you very much, and thank you here, all my friends here today. Thank you.